They taught you intelligence could be measured by test scores, quick answers, degrees on a wall. But have you ever met someone who didn't speak much, didn't boast, and yet just their silence made you realize how much more you have to learn? The truth is, intelligence isn't about speed, it's about depth. It doesn't lie in the right answers, but in the patience to sit with the right questions. In a world obsessed with noise, the fast talkers are often mistaken for the wise. In a culture addicted to control and efficiency, we forget that to accept, to pause, to be silent is sometimes the highest form of intelligence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But how many of us ever ask, what color is my soul today? And who's been holding the brush, me, or the voices I've never questioned? This is not a video about getting smarter. It's an invitation to step into a quieter, steadier kind of intelligence, the kind the Stoics lived by, rooted in clarity, resilience, and freedom from chaos. If you're tired of the performative kind of smart, if you crave the kind of wisdom that understands yourself, others, and life itself, stay with me. These 10 Stoic techniques won't just sharpen your mind. They'll ground your spirit and awaken a version of you that no noise can shake. 1. Embracing change as a teacher. Let change shape you, not shatter you. We say we fear change, but what we truly fear is losing control. You get a new manager at work. The app you've used for years suddenly updates and feels alien. A close friend begins to drift away. It's easy to see these changes as disruptions, threats to the order we've built. But what if change isn't chaos? What if it's curriculum, and life itself is the classroom? The Stoics believe that every shift, every unexpected turn, is a chance to learn, not just to cope. They didn't run from change. They bowed to it, studied it, and used it to sharpen their minds. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most burdened emperor in history, once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." To the Stoics, change wasn't loss, it was movement. And in movement, there is life, growth, intelligence. Think back, when have you grown the most? Was it during ease and routine, or during a move, a breakup, a layoff, or a soul-shifting book? Change strips us down. It breaks the illusion that we're in control. But in that space, that terrifying, uncertain space, the mind wakes up. It adapts. It questions. It evolves. But here's the key. Embracing change doesn't mean chasing every trend or uprooting your life for excitement. It means developing what modern psychology calls psychological flexibility. The ability to shift perspective, to respond rather than react, to be curious instead of closed. So the next time life throws a curveball, a sudden planned change, a frustrating update, a door closing, pause, breathe, ask, what lesson is hidden here? What part of me is being asked to grow? Because in the philosophy of the Stoics, change isn't your enemy. It's your most honest, unrelenting teacher. 2. Embracing discomfort for growth, the furnace that forges you. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "You're safe here. Stay a little longer." And so we do, staying in jobs we've outgrown, relationships that numb us, routines that keep us small. But growth never happens in still water. It happens in fire. The Stoics knew this intimately. They didn't seek out suffering for its own sake. But they believe that discomfort is the furnace where strength, resilience, and intelligence are forged. Imagine this. You're learning a new language. At first, every sentence feels like failure. You mispronounce. You forget. You feel foolish. And that's exactly where learning begins. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the obstacle is not blocking your path, it is the path. Modern psychology agrees. This is known as deliberate difficulty. When we stretch our minds beyond their comfort zones, Whether through learning, facing fears, or enduring hardship, we create new neural pathways. We become mentally tougher, more adaptable, more alive. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's a signal that something meaningful is happening. It's a doorway, not a wall. The next time you're tempted to quit because it's hard, because you're unsure, because you're tired, remember, this is where your old self ends and a sharper, more capable version begins. So lean into the struggle, not recklessly but deliberately, like the Stoics did, with calm, courage, and clarity. Because comfort coddles, but discomfort transforms. 3. Deliberate disengagement. Step back to see clearly. Imagine a painter standing too close to their canvas. Brush in hand, they obsess over each stroke, every detail, until the picture blurs. But when they step back, even for a moment, the whole painting comes into focus. That's what the Stoics understood long before the world became loud and always online. They knew that constant engagement, no matter how noble, can cloud the mind, and so they practiced the art of stepping back. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "People seek retreats for themselves, in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. Yet the greatest retreat is within yourself." Today, we rarely retreat. We wake to pings, work through notifications, scroll through lunch. We mistake productivity for purpose, motion for meaning. But the Stoics remind us, true clarity is not found in more doing, it's found in intentional stillness. This isn't about escapism, it's about recentering, about pausing to reflect, to breathe, to see again. Modern neuroscience confirms this. When we disengage, walk in nature, sit in silence, journal our thoughts, our brain shifts from reactive to reflective. We gain insight, perspective, intelligence that isn't rushed but rooted. So give yourself permission to disconnect, not to escape life, but to return to it with greater clarity and strength. Take a walk without your phone. Close your laptop and just sit. Let silence reintroduce you to your own thoughts. Because sometimes the wisest thing you can do is nothing at all. For lifelong learning, stay curious, stay alive. Some people stop learning the day they graduate. They hang their diploma, take a job, and slowly drift into the illusion that they now know enough. But the Stoics would call that a quiet kind of death, because for them, to live is to learn. And when you stop learning, not in school but in spirit, you don't just stop growing, you begin to shrink. Epictetus put it bluntly, only the educated are free. Not educated in the formal sense, but educated in life, in self-awareness, in truth. Think of a child seeing rain for the first time. They don't complain. They ask, what is this? Why does it fall? Can I touch it? That wonder, the raw curiosity we're all born with, fades as we grow. Not because it's no longer needed, but because we traded it for comfort, for routine, for certainty. But here's the truth. Your mind is not a container. It's a muscle, and like any muscle, it withers when unused. Lifelong learning isn't about collecting certificates or reading 100 books a year. It's about how you show up to the world. It's about listening more deeply, asking better questions, changing your mind when new truth arrives. Today, we have access to infinite information, but wisdom only comes when we reflect, apply, and live what we learn. So stay curious. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Be willing to unlearn what no longer serves you. Because in the end, learning isn't just how we grow. It's how we stay awake in a world that wants us to fall asleep. 5. Cultivating gratitude as a gateway to wisdom. See what others overlook. Gratitude is often treated like a holiday accessory, something we dust off on Thanksgiving or post about on social media. But to the Stoics, gratitude was not a mood. It was a discipline, a way of seeing, noticing what you have, appreciating what's still here. finding meaning in the mundane. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." That's not sentiment. That's strategy. Because the mind that constantly complains, the mind that focuses only on what's missing, will never grow wise. It's too busy resenting life to learn from it. Gratitude, on the other hand, sharpens your vision. It turns every moment into a mirror, reflecting not what you lack, but what you're called to see more deeply. Modern psychology calls this attentional training. Gratitude rewires your brain to notice beauty, strength, resilience, instead of absence and failure. Think about this. That failed project? It taught you what to never repeat. That quiet sunset? It reminded you that peace doesn't shout. That boring day? It was your chance to slow down and listen. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means widening your lens, so you don't miss the wisdom hidden in ordinary things. Because in the rush to chase what's next, most people forget this truth. Life doesn't owe you clarity. You have to pause and uncover it. And gratitude is how you pause long enough to see what others overlook. 6. The power of mindful observation. Learn to see what's always been there, Have you ever watched sunlight filter through the leaves? Or the way steam dances off a cup of coffee in the morning? Most people don't. Not because they're blind, but because their minds are somewhere else. Chasing, scrolling, reacting. The Stoics believed that wisdom begins with perception. Not just what we see, but how we see. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth." But time alone isn't enough. We must slow down long enough to observe what time reveals. Mindful observation is not a luxury. It's a practice, a way to reconnect with the present, and with the thousand quiet truths we miss in the noise. Modern research backs this. Slowing down to truly observe, whether it's a flower blooming or someone's tone shifting, activates deeper areas of the brain tied to empathy, memory, and insight. It makes us smarter, not just more informed. Imagine standing at a busy city square. Most will rush past, but a mindful observer? They'll notice the couple holding hands in silence, the child staring at the sky, the busker playing a tune slightly off-key, but full of soul. Observation becomes education. Stillness becomes wisdom. So make time each day to notice something deeply. The way your breath rises, the curve of a cloud, the heaviness in a friend's voice. Because when you train yourself to see, not just look, you unlock a dimension of intelligence that's been waiting in plain sight. 7. The art of active listening, the quiet skill that makes you wise. We've all done it. Nodded along while someone spoke, eyes glazed, mind elsewhere, already crafting our reply, or wondering what we'll eat for dinner. But the Stoics believe that true intelligence isn't just found in what you say. It's revealed in how you listen. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." And he meant it, because wisdom begins not with answers, but with the humility to receive what another person is trying to share. In today's world, listening has become rare. Everyone wants to be heard. If you want to understand, but when you truly listen, without interrupting, without judging, without planning your comeback, you do something powerful. You create space for truth to emerge. Psychologists call this attuned listening. It builds trust, diffuses conflict, enhances empathy. It even improves memory and decision-making, because you're not just hearing, you're absorbing. Think of a time someone really listened to you, not out of politeness, but presence. Didn't it feel like you mattered more? That's what you offer others when you listen this way. And that's what you give yourself. New perspectives, unexpected insights, emotional depth. So the next time you're in a conversation, try this. Pause before speaking. Let silence stretch. Ask a question instead of offering advice. Because when you practice active listening, you become a mirror, not a megaphone. And in that reflection, wisdom is born. 8. Seeking silence amidst the noise, where clarity is waiting. The world is loud. Notifications buzz. News cycles churn. Opinions scream. We wake up to noise and fall asleep to distraction. And yet, the Stoics sought silence, not as escape, but as return. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." But how do we separate the two when we never pause long enough to hear our own thoughts? Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness. It is the clearing where your mind exhales, where insight can land like soft rain on still water. In our hyper-connected lives, silence can feel unnatural, even threatening. We're conditioned to fill every gap, to chase every ping. But every moment of noise we accept is a moment of wisdom we trade away. Modern neuroscience agrees. Silence restores the default mode network in the brain, the system responsible for reflection, creativity, and deep self-awareness. In stillness, we don't just rest. We reconnect to values, to memory, to meaning. So carve out pockets of quiet. 5 minutes. 10. It doesn't take much. Wake before the world. Walk without your phone. Sit with your breath. Let your thoughts surface, not to fix them, but to meet them. Because in a world screaming for your attention, your silence becomes an act of rebellion. And your stillness, a sacred space where clarity returns. 9. The value of diverse interactions. Every person is a doorway. Some people spend their whole lives speaking only to those who think like them. Same opinions, same fears, same stories told in different clothes. But the Stoics believe that wisdom isn't found in echo chambers. It's forged in the friction of unfamiliar voices. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But improvement doesn't only come from mentors or sages. Sometimes it comes from the barista who grew up in a different country, the janitor with a story you've never asked about, the child who sees the world without filters. Every person you meet is a doorway into a life you haven't lived, a truth you haven't considered, a lesson you didn't expect. Modern psychology calls this perspective expansion. By engaging with different backgrounds, beliefs, and experiences, we challenge our assumptions. We stretch our empathy. We sharpen our thinking, not by defending, but by listening. Diverse interactions aren't about agreement. They're about exposure to more of the human condition. More laughter, more pain, more angles on the same unchanging questions. What matters? What's real? How should we live? So step outside your circle. Ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Listen to a viewpoint that makes you uncomfortable, not to refute it, but to understand it. Because the person you least expect may hold the insight your life has been missing. And in that conversation, your world doesn't just widen, it deepens. 10. Cultivating curiosity over judgment. Ask before you assume. We live in an age of instant conclusions. Swipe left, cancel, unfollow. One post, one sentence, one look, and we think we know. But the Stoics would ask, do you want to judge quickly or understand deeply? Epictetus said it best. It is impossible for a person to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows. Because the moment we assume, we stop listening. We stop learning. And worst of all, we stop growing. Curiosity is the antidote. It says, I don't know enough. I want to see more. I want to understand why. Curiosity is a quiet strength. It holds space for complexity. It doesn't rush to label. It leans in to explore. Modern psychology backs this up. Curiosity activates parts of the brain tied to reward, empathy, and memory. It improves learning, creativity, and even relationships. Judgment shrinks your world. Curiosity expands it. So the next time you disagree with someone, instead of asking what's wrong with them, ask what happened to them. The next time you see something unfamiliar, don't scroll past. Pause. Ask a question. Sit in the unknown. Because the most intelligent people aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who are brave enough to not know, and humble enough to keep learning. In a world desperate to be right, be the one who's still willing to ask, what else could be true? 11. Practicing emotional precision. Name it to master it. Most people believe they're thinking, when really, they're just reacting. Something happens, you get cut off in traffic, receive a cold message, feel ignored, and instantly a wave crashes through you. Anger, frustration, shame. But here's the truth, you can't master what you can't name. The Stoics didn't suppress their emotions. They studied them. They dissected them, not to feel less, but to understand more. Marcus Aurelius journaled his emotions daily, not to vent, but to gain clarity, to see what was real and what was just noise. Modern psychology calls this emotional granularity, the ability to identify what you're really feeling in specific terms. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. I'm not anxious. I'm unprepared. I'm not sad. I'm tired. The more precise your emotional language, the more power you have over your response. Because intelligence isn't just about cognition. It's about regulation, about pausing long enough to ask, what am I really feeling? And what is this emotion trying to teach me? When you name an emotion, you shrink its power. You move from being inside the storm to observing it from the shore. So next time a strong feeling grabs hold of you, don't deny it. Don't dump it. Define it. Because the mind that can describe itself clearly is already halfway to mastering itself. 12. Turning solitude into a strategy. Be alone, not lonely. In a hyper-connected world, silence is rare. But solitude is almost feared. People fill every empty moment with noise, scrolling, texting, watching, because being alone has become uncomfortable. But to the Stoics, solitude wasn't a punishment. It was a strategy. Seneca wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." Solitude, when chosen deliberately, becomes a forge. It strips away distractions, ego, performance, and leaves only the real conversation. You with yourself. Most people never have that conversation. They know everyone's opinion, but haven't truly heard their own voice in years. But when you learn to sit with yourself, truly sit, without reaching for a screen or a dopamine hit, something strange and powerful happens. You begin to hear what you really think. You begin to feel where your energy is leaking. You begin to distinguish between your voice and the voices the world has planted in you. Modern psychology calls this self-generated cognition, the ability to produce deep, original thought, rather than constantly reacting to external stimuli. Solitude gives birth to clarity, and clarity is the root of all higher intelligence. So make time, not just to rest, but to retreat. Close the door. Turn inward, not to escape life, but to re-enter it more fully aligned. Because in a world addicted to attention, the ability to be alone is not a weakness. It's one of the rarest and strongest forms of self-possession. 13. Choosing response over reaction. The gap that changes everything. Something happens. You feel it, fast, raw, unfiltered. An insult, a delay, a disappointment, and in that instant, your body wants to react. But the Stoics taught us that between what happens and what we do about it, there's a sacred gap. In that gap lives freedom. In that space lives choice. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The world will trigger you. People will offend you. Plans will break. But intelligence, real, grounded, powerful intelligence, is found in your ability to pause, to take a breath, to observe your internal storm without becoming the storm. Modern behavioral science supports this. The ability to delay reaction by even a few seconds engages the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that governs reasoning, empathy, and wise decision-making. Reactivity is impulsive. Response is intentional. So the next time something rattles you, remember this. You don't have to match chaos with chaos. You don't have to mirror disrespect. You don't have to let your emotional steering wheel be yanked by every bump in the road. You can pause, reflect, and choose. Because in that gap, you don't just become more intelligent, you become unshakable. Conclusion: intelligence is not what you think. We began this journey with a simple idea. That intelligence isn't about how fast you think, but how deeply you understand. Now you know, true intelligence is quiet. It observes before it speaks. It pauses before it acts. It listens. It questions. It embraces discomfort, silence, solitude, and comes out wiser, not louder. The Stoics didn't chase knowledge to impress. They pursued wisdom to live better. And that's your invitation now. Not to memorize these 13 principles, but to live them. To walk through life not as someone who reacts, but as someone who responds with clarity, calm, and conviction. You don't need to change everything overnight. You only need to begin with awareness and with intention. Because in a world of noise, the most powerful mind is the one that can stay still, see clearly, and choose wisely. Before you go, let's keep growing together. If any part of this video stirred something in you, a memory, a question, a quiet yes deep inside, don't let it fade. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next deep dive into Stoic wisdom and emotional mastery. Tell us in the comments, which of the 13 principles hit you the hardest? Your insight could be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if you know someone who's searching for more than surface-level advice, share this video with them, because wisdom grows stronger when we walk the path together. Are you ready for the next level of clarity, calm, and inner power? Then stay with us. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of your most intelligent chapter yet.